I think we are on.
Oh, we are. I didn't even see that. I was trying to send Alan a note to make sure that he had the graphic and everything for tonight. So if you're listening to me, Alan, I want to make sure you have the graphic and everything for tonight. How
Guess we'll find
Victoria
out.
is going to be missing, and that's not going to be much fun, but I want
No.
her to really, really feel a whole lot better and take care of her voice so that she
Hmm.
be with us next week and be able to get everything that she needs to get together. I'm
Absolutely.
excited. I'm excited. I always love it when we have authors that are children's authors. We've got her story. We've got lots about her that she's going to share with us tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. You got your weekend review ready, Ruth?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
I'm
Oh,
ready.
all right. I'm ready too. I'm ready too. I have a couple of things, only a couple of things, but I'm glad about those couple of things that I have, and I need to redo something with my and this is nothing I'll talk about when we get together, but my step tracker thingy. I don't know what's going on with it, but it's not recording. Um,
Oh, we'll take a look at it.
so we need to get that fixed because I'm getting back into the swing of getting my steps in and exercise in. And you know I can't afford to miss one.
All
Yep.
right, everybody, time to roll the open and get anything
Great, great,
started.
great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Alan.
Alan. Good evening, good evening, good. Oh, Ruth's got a little
Yeah.
going on there tonight. Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, no, we made a really good choice when we chose that music. So,
I know, I know. It always makes me feel good when we
hmm
start playing that on Sunday evenings. Good evening, everybody. This is Andrea L. Hines, and you see Miss Ruth Griffin over there. And
yeah.
we're missing one of the three in the dynamic trio that we've got going on. Hey there, Linda Cooks. Welcome to you. Good evening to you. Miss Victoria is not feeling well. She's got a little bit of laryngitis, and you know when
Hmm.
Queen Victoria cannot talk, I don't know. It's just not a good day. So we're
No,
hoping that she feels much, 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 much better and that she'll be with us in the weeks coming up. As we've got
absolutely.
a lot going on, and we need Miss Victoria to feel well and healed and whole. Hey, Serena, how are you this evening? Glad to have you in the house with us tonight. Yep, we're hanging in there. Hope all is well with you. And we're going to get started as we usually do on Sunday
Hmm.
evenings and talk a little bit about our week in review. Ruth, why don't you start tonight?
Oh, absolutely. So, obviously, I wasn't here last week. Now it's Victoria's turn, and we're not taking turns. You can't be out next week, so just letting you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was actually in the ER last week. It turned out to be nothing. Well, I won't say nothing. You know how when you talk to other people, and the symptoms you think are the same. My sister had appendicitis a few weeks ago, ended up getting emergency surgery, all of that. And, my side starts hurting. I'm like, oh my God, I have appendicitis. And I'm sitting there talking to her. And well, 3 hours later at the hospital, um, it was viral and they sent me home. They're like, you're good.
Good. We're
Yeah,
glad.
good. Yeah, no, I'm still in pain, but I'm
We're
good.
glad.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, so that was my week last week. I'm getting better. So none of that. Won't be doing that again for a while. Or I don't plan to be doing that. Let's put it that way. So,
Okay.
and like I said, you can't take next week off. So we're
No,
not taking turns.
no,
None
no.
of that. So just want to put that out there.
I
Um,
hate missing stuff, so I'll be here.
So I did want to note, last week we had a lot of last minute changes. Our guest did not appear, but I've contacted her. Unfortunately, she was in another time zone, so she had the times mixed up. But she
Mm.
will be joining us in October. I'm excited. She has a great book. And I'm sorry, I can't think of her name right now. It was Elaine Kochanowicz, I think.
Yeah, that was
I
right.
butchered her last name,
Mhm.
but I'm excited and I'm looking forward to her being on our show. So, Victoria, if you're listening, I hope you're feeling better. Come back next week. And Andrea, again, you will be here next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
I'll be in my place.
So, how was your week?
It was good. It
Okay,
was good. Nakayana, thank you for joining us. I saw your name pop up there. Good, glad to have you with us tonight. It was good, and I could say that very, very quickly because I had actually 4 things that I needed to complete. I prioritized them and worked on the ones that I knew I needed to work on
hmm
right away, and put the others on the back burner until next week. So hopefully by the end of next week, I will have those 2 things completed as well. But one of the things was to complete the writing challenge, the story challenge that we had put out there. And that's going to be coming up the first Sunday in September, guys. So be sure to put that uh, on your calendar, your whatever you use to remind yourself of good things. Francina Booker and Angie Oliphant are 2 of
hmm
the listeners that agreed to participate. We had 4 topics: meet my lessons learned, um,
The
the
unexpected.
unexpected, and what was the 4th one, Ruth? I forget it every single time. I can't think of what the 4th one was, but if I do before the end of the show, I will mention it. But we had 4 topics to write from.
Mhm.
Challenge was to do it in about 750 words, and I think somehow those of us who have turned our work in have exceeded that number of words, but we have discovered that we not only write, but we write a lot once we get started.
Oh
So
yeah. No, there's some authors, they'll easily write a 50,000 word book before they can sit there and write a short piece. So,
yeah, yeah, and we're excited about that. I'm
mhm,
excited about you hearing my story that I had together. Mine was a combination of meet my and lessons learned, and
yes.
Ruth, you finished yours, and
Yeah.
yours is more of a what
It's
topic would you?
a it's The Unexpected, and it's a fictional piece.
Okay.
I thought I wasn't going to be doing much with it, but I think I'm probably going to expound on it for the November writing challenge. So,
Okay,
we'll see
okay.
what comes out of it, but
You
I'm
gonna do
excited
that
to
again
share.
this year,
Yes, I
right?
wasn't gonna do it, but then it was like, yeah, no, I've got to. So,
Okay, good, good.
yeah.
I'm proud of you. I think
Yeah,
that's
you did.
great.
I didn't hear that you were gonna join me.
I'm proud of you. I think that's great. No, I kind of don't think I am, but you never know. This is August, so I very
Okay.
well might change my mind and join you.
Okay.
We'll see. Serena says writing is therapy. Yes, it
Yes, it
is.
is.
Yes, it is, and
Yes, it
I
is.
rather enjoyed what I wrote about. I was satisfied with what I wrote about, and I like it. And so I'm glad to be able to share that with you. And that's going to be the first Sunday in September that we're going to do that. And everybody's going to have an opportunity to read their piece to you.
That's
So I
right.
hope you will come back, invite a friend, share, and we're going to have a good time that evening. So that's one thing that I finished. The other thing was the um, what do I want to call the collection
Mhm.
of positive points of power from the 8 at 8 program is in the hands of the editor. And moving forward with that, I think I need to change the title. It will be a series because we had over 300 of those pieces in July, by July of this year. So the program comes on 3 days a week. Nikayeta has joined sometimes. Linda has been on the line sometimes. So they know what it's all about. And the rest of you will get to find out a little bit later. But I am excited that part, my part is done. You know, Ruth tells us writing and editing are two
Mhm.
different things.
Mhm.
So I finished my part. The editor's got to do her part now. And we will move on and see what we have got going on coming up. But for tonight,
That's
we have
right.
a very, very, very special guest. Her name is Savon Hung, and she authors and illustrates the best-selling children's book series, The Super Fun Day Books. I love that. The Super Fun Day Books, including Benny J and the Horrible Halloween, George J and the Miserable Monday. I think we
Mm.
can do something with Andrea and the Miserable Mondays. We'll look into that. Emily D and the Fearful First Day, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, and Avery G and the Scary End of School. Her inspiring books focus on neurodiverse children, and we're going to get her to talk a little bit about what that means, who overcome their challenges with perseverance and bravery. Savon also serves as a trustee on the boards of the Westport Public Library, the Rita Allen Foundation, Multicultural Children's Book Day, and the ASPCA. When she's not working, Savon enjoys being a wife to her lovely husband and a mother to their two wonderful children. They have a dog and a cat, and they live in Connecticut. After the break, you will get to meet our guest for this evening and author of Emily D. and the Fearful First Day, Savon Hung. We'll be right back. Welcome, welcome, Savon. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We're glad to have you on the show, and we're excited to talk about your book. Well, your
Absolutely.
books.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Savon, you are the first children's book author and illustrator we've had on the show, the combination of that. And we are just excited to get into your process to talk about your book. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about your book, Emily D. and the Fearful First Day.
So all of my books, as you said in the introduction, are about neurodiverse kids. And what that means is kids who have different brain functions. So children who are autistic or have ADHD or dyslexia. There's a kind of wide variety of kind of brain differences that manifest themselves in that category called neurodiversity. And my books are targeted for those types of children so that they can see themselves in picture books, so that they see their experience as being normal. Because as we know, as authors, books have an incredible way of being able to normalize difference and make somebody feel accepted by the characters they see in those pages. Obviously, they are just as important for kids who are not neurodiverse, because they too need to see the differences that exist out there. But this book is about the first day of school. And for all children, the first day of
Mhm.
school can be scary. Even for adults, the first day of a new job is scary, right? That the aspect of change and the unknown can lead to a lot of trepidation. And this book talks through Emily's fears. She lays them out in a very structured format to say, here are all the things that I'm scared about the first day of school. And she talks to her parents about them, and they come up with a plan on how to overcome some of those fears. And this book, like all of my books, is structured in something called a social story. A social story is something that educators use in special education to walk a child through a series of problems so that they can then learn the steps to overcome them on their own. And so all of my books use that structure because I want to empower these kids to feel like whatever challenge they face, they can take it on and succeed.
Mm.
That is awesome. I think you already answered the question because your characters are diverse. And normally we tend to write what we know. You know, we tend to mirror the world that we see or that we're in. But your characters, I was looking at the other books as well, and your characters are very diverse. Um, I think, like I said, I think you've already answered that, but what made you choose that? And what about your background? Because we were talking about that before the
Right.
show. How much of your background contributed to that choice and to your choice to write about neurodiversity and all of this?
So I'm neurodivergent myself, right?
Mhm.
And so being able to see that world through my eyes helps. But both of my children are also neurodiverse, and my stories are based on their experiences.
Mhm.
But there is a challenge in the media because every time not every time, but the majority of times that they show an autistic person, it is a white male or a white boy.
Mhm.
And that is not an accurate reflection of what is going on in the population. In fact, women and girls are severely underdiagnosed,
Mhm.
and particularly girls of color. And so, even though my first two books are illustrations that look like my kids, and my children are biracial, but in a cartoon, that's hard to tell, I thought it was very important to show that neurodiversity looks like girls of color just as much as it looks like a white boy that we see on TV. Those girls need to be able to see themselves in books, if not more, right? Because the media seems to be ignoring them, and thus they're not getting the services and the support that they need because nobody looks at them and says, oh, this must be happening to you.
Wow. Wow, that's not something we think about often, especially if it doesn't affect us.
Mhm.
So, what other topics do you cover in your books?
So the Halloween story was about, and again, it was a true story. It was about my eldest son, and when I took him to kindergarten on the day of the Halloween parade, he wouldn't get out of the car. He was terrified. And as a mother, I thought, I'm a complete failure. What have I done? Halloween is supposed to be this magical day for kids at school. You dress up, you have a parade, you get snacks. Like, this is supposed to be one of the best days of the year, and he won't get out of the car. What have I done? And it took me and his team a year to figure out what the different drivers were that caused him to be so afraid of Halloween. And we laid them out, and then we laid out a plan for him on how to overcome them. And this is actually the story, because for him it was loud noises, right? He
Mhm.
has sensory issues. And so my character wears headphones in the book. And it was the first time that I have ever seen an illustration with a child wearing headphones. And to me, that was really, really important. But it also talked about the fact that he was nervous about the fact that what if he wouldn't be able to recognize his friends in their costumes, right? Or when the parents all come to watch the parade, what if he wasn't going to be able to see me and find me? And it's all these real fears that you don't think about as an adult with Halloween that we were able to kind of give the specific steps on how to overcome. And then the following year in first grade, he went and he loved it. and the I have pictures of him dancing because he was so proud that he had done it and he'd overcome this thing that was so
Oh, wow.
scary. And so that was actually the first book I published because I wanted to share that experience with other families so that they wouldn't have that kindergarten day that I had where I was like, I'm the worst mom in the world. My kid hates Halloween.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about your illustrations because they fit your book so perfectly. I think they were great. And again, we've had several children's book authors, but you're the first one who actually illustrated her own book. So, let's talk about that. How was that process for you? Um, do you doodle? Are you an artist? Do you illustrate? Are you a writer first? You know,
So I felt like the whole book process was so new to me that it was never something that I had set out to do. Growing up, I was not a big reader because I really struggled with reading, and I didn't find a love of books until I discovered audiobooks. And that was how I was able to access the language and put them in my brain and see the story. And so for me, growing up, being a writer would have been the last thing in the world that I would have ever imagined doing. So when I started this, it was much more of a how do I share this true, authentic experience with others? And what I found as a mother with two neurodivergent kids is that when they looked at these picture books that had these incredible illustrations, they became a distraction. Right? You'd see this magical forest and there'd be a little tiny red bird in the corner. And my kid would lose focus about the story and start asking questions about why is there a red bird in the corner and what's the bird doing? And I was like, this is not what's supposed to happen. So my illustrations are very deliberately simple. Right? There's a purposefulness to the simplicity of the illustration because I want the child to stay focused on the story. And the illustration is there to support that story, but the story is the important part of the experience. My font is also very deliberate. It's dyslexic friendly so that children of all kinds of learning styles can access what these books have. All of my books, given my personal experience, are also available as audiobooks. Again, because children learn in lots of different ways, I wanted to make the language and the story accessible for all of them. And so that was the real driver behind my decision to illustrate them, because I thought it would be much harder for me to explain that I wanted something this simple from an illustrator. And I kind of maybe to some degree was delusional and decided that I could do it myself. I have no background in illustration. I was a huge doodler as like a fidget in elementary school and would constantly doodle on everything. And so I used that experience of kind of that outlet that I had as a kid to then apply them to the books. I guess I'm the kind of person that didn't realize how hard things were. And I just said, no, I'm just going to go do it and see what happens. And it worked.
That's great. I don't want to interrupt you just because I don't want to forget this, but we always, it's one, I don't even know how to explain it, but we don't always know the full story. Behind things. We know a little bit. We know a little bit that the author shares as much as they can in their bio and all of that. But even broader, we don't know what our listeners deal with and what our listeners go through. And there's no way to know that ahead of time. It's only through discussion and through what we have here. So I'm really excited. I'm excited about what you're sharing, Siobhan. And I don't know that you can see the comments at all, but we have one listener who has shared with us that she's dyslexic. And here you are with, that part of the driver for the stories that you have. Another listener says, my field I work in is with children and with autistic children. Now these are listeners that have been with us for a while, you know, and come on and off the program, and these are things that we did not know. So I'm just really excited when we can and are able to get that connection and that connectivity with things that now they will be able to go out and share the fact that there are these great series of books out there that they may not have known about before that can help someone else to better understand an area that they deal with all the time and deal with every day. And I just thank you so much for that. And it's just amazing. I just love the way things come together like that sometimes. So I'm going to be quiet now because I get
Okay.
excited about the smallest things. So, but I think that's great. And I think that there is something wonderful about somebody who takes the time to say, you know, okay, I look around me and I don't see anything that taps into who I am and what I'm going through and what I look like or any of that. So I am going to create it. You know, some people walk away and say, gee, I wish somebody would do that. But sometimes we are the somebody who can do that.
Mhm.
And I think it's great that you kind of took up the gauntlet and decided to do something about it. Let me read Sabrina's comment right here. She said, every day at work, it can be challenging, but you must have patience to work with children with special needs. And here is something that can, Sabrina, perhaps be an additional tool to do that. Every child likes to be read to. Every child loves stories. And here is story time for them that they can immerse themselves in and really see what's going on. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
One of my favorite things is to get kind of photographs and emails from parents where their child is going through the book and they stop at a page and they suddenly say, that's just like me, right? Like
Yes.
that character is living my life, because that's a recognition that they're okay, right? Like they
Mhm.
may see the world in a different way and things may be hard for them and some things may be easy for them and they are different, but there is nothing wrong with different, right? and
Right.
and and
Absolutely.
that is the thing that I want these kids to walk away from, to feel a sense of pride about who they are, right, and what they bring to our world.
Mm.
That's awesome. That is awesome. You had something else, Ruth. You were going down a path that I interrupted. So
Oh, no, you are good. I have to say, you know what? And I'll be honest, I read on my Kindle. So one of the options is the dyslexic font. And I always look at that and I'm like, I know that's not for me because that really bothers me when I look at it, but I know that that's for someone else. And I didn't even pay attention to it. But now, as I think about the book and I look back and I think back, I'm like, every piece was intentional. And it's awesome to see that and to hear that because, oftentimes, every book that I've written, I tell my authors this, every scene has to make sense. It can't go unwasted. You don't introduce something here that you're not going to do something with later.
right.
Everything has to be connected in some way. And just to hear how intentional you were with every piece of your book is just, to me, it's mind boggling because, it's just a children's book, but it is more than that. And that is just awesome.
Yes.
Well, as authors, right, like we always talk about how it's our work, um, but it's not our work, right? Like
Hmm.
it's our work until we release it, and then
That's
it
right.
belongs to the reader. And for
Hmm.
me, it has to be able to be accessible to that
That's
reader,
right.
right? Like it's not about whether or not I can look at the pictures and I can read it and
Hmm.
I'm okay with it, because it's not mine.
Right.
Mhm.
That's right. All right. So I have a couple more questions about your illustrative process, and just the publishing as well. So are you I draw on paper or are you, let me put it on a tablet person?
I draw on paper.
Okay.
I use colored pencils. And what I do with each of my books is I draw the main character first before I write a word. And the first two books, the Benny J and the George J books, those characters look just like my kids. So that was pretty easy. And then I bring them in to the process because these are their stories, right? Even the Emily D and the Avery G story, they may be girls, but these were my son's stories. And I want to make sure that their feelings are represented in an authentic way. So I let them pick the names of the characters, and we go through it to make sure that this was really how they felt, so that they're part of the process with me. And then I'll go through and I'll write the story. And one other note about it is that every teacher that is referenced in my book, every teacher character is a real teacher, and that's their real name, and they really did what we're talking about in the book. And it's my way of saying thank you to these incredible educators that have done amazing things for the lives of my children. And so, you know, there's that level of authenticity in the process. And then once I've written it, then I go through, and based on that one illustration that's kind of stuck on my computer, I will start doing the illustrations. And then about halfway through, then I have to do kind of a sanity check. Is the story still good, right? Does it still work? Is it still right? And I'll test it with some teachers, and I'll test it with other kids. And I want to make sure that it really works. And then I finish doing the illustrations. And then I'm the one who does all of the kind of the layout, right? Again, because I want to make sure that it's as simple and clear and easy so that my audience can really be able to take it all in. So that's the process that I use. And I had to teach myself how to kind of convert the sketches into the computer graphics, but the sketches all come first. Like I said, I'm a doodler, right? Like, so that's what they start off as.
That is awesome. And I want all our listeners to go back and listen to this at some point, because your process is no different than my process when I'm sitting there writing a 60,000 word novel. I mean, it is literally the same. You get an idea of the characters, you start writing it out, outlining it, you check it with other folks. I mean, it's no different, you know, and that, you know, I've heard people talk about how, oh, it's just children's book, it's easier, it's, you know, it is the same level of work, maybe even more, you know.
It's less words, right? But as you said earlier, sometimes being so parsimonious with your language is hard, right? Like you really have to figure out, is this the word I want? Is this the reflection that I'm trying to say? And you don't have a lot of room on the page to be able to get those emotions to come through. That said, I could never write a book like you write, Ruth, but there's a place for all of us.
That's right. That's right. I will never write a children's book or illustrate it, but you know what? You have done a great job. You've done a great job for all four of us. Victoria, when she comes back, you've done more than enough to cover us all. So I am really impressed. I loved your book when I read it. I love it even more now that we've chatted. So kudos.
Thank you.
Yes,
great.
Absolutely. I have just a couple of quick things, Siobhan. One is how each book that you have written, how long did it take you to put it together, to put that first character together and get the story? Because I'm sure you had the story, you know, in your head. It wasn't one that you built, you know what I'm saying? So you had that part there. But how long did it take you with the layout to get each one done?
It takes me, depending on the book, right? Because they're all true stories. So I'm not trying to come up with the story, as you said, Andrea, right? Like I know my beginning, middle, and end. It takes me usually on average about 6 months, if that's all I'm doing. But as we know as authors, we don't really have the time to just sit there and write and do, right? We're doing interviews, and we're doing social media, and we're doing all this other stuff that goes as part of kind of that process. So, but yes, if I have uninterrupted 6 months, then I can do it that way.
We all have that.
Yes,
Right,
we do.
right.
Absolutely. Mhm.
One thing that our Queen Victoria says all the time, and I will take license and liberty to say it in her stead tonight, is get the book. Get the book. And if they wanted to get the book, Siobhan, where would they go?
So like I had said, my name's a bit original. And so you can get it at savonhong.com, which is my website. And then it's also available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And my favorite, getting it at a bunch of independent bookshops. My website also has free parent and teacher guides for every single one of my books. If anybody wanted to download them, they were created by school psychologists and tested in classrooms with kids. And for me, this is a kind of a passion. And so I just want to be able to make it kind of open and available to anybody who could benefit from that. So those are free on my website too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One thing that I want to say about Get the Book this time. Usually, when we talk about Get the Book, it's something that it's a story that we as adults can relate to or whatever. But we always talk about being a blessing to somebody else and giving to somebody else and planting a seed into somebody else's life. And this is that kind of book, guys. For those of you who are listening, you want to get this book so that you can share it with somebody that you know that has a child who is neurodiverse. And there are a lot more people in your life and in your path that can use this information and would enjoy not only the book, but the guides that Siobhan just talked about. It would be so helpful to them. So share this knowledge with somebody else. Gift somebody this seed, because it is a seed that would be planted that would be really, really helpful and would be an amazing blessing to somebody else. So I encourage you to do that. And Sabrina and Nikayana, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story in this particular broadcast as well. What's on tap for you next, Siobhan? What you got going on?
I'm working on a 5th book.
Okay.
It like all the other ones, it is a true story. When my youngest was 2, he was terrified of dogs, and he had an imaginary friend that was a dog named Lemon who slept with him every night. And we were finally able to get him an autistic service dog that had failed out of the program. And we brought this dog home, and we were so scared that my son was just gonna bolt, and because dogs were loud and he would cover his ears. And we brought the dog home, and he looked at the dog and he goes, "Oh, hi, Lemon." And the two of them walked upstairs, and it was as if the imaginary friend who protected him for all these years morphed into this real dog. And the two of them still to this day sleep next to each other every night. So that's going to be my 5th book, if I can find a way to get that magic on paper.
Oh
my God. Yes, you have to do that.
And
then you have to come
back.
And then I will definitely come back and share it with you.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's going to be good. That is going to be good. Good. Thank you so much. There more. I could not have anticipated all that we have gotten from you, gleaned from you tonight, Siobhan. It just has been a pleasure, just a pleasure having you with us and having you share about yourself and about these stories, about your family. Just absolutely brilliant what you have done and the way that you have put this together for so many people who need it, and now they have a resource. Now they know. And guys, we really want you to share this broadcast with friends of yours who have some of these challenges, or who have children, or who know of people who do have children with these challenges. But just not just that, but whether they do or not, these are great stories. They are great stories, and the illustrations are really well done. The books are put together in a great way. I can't wait to share some of the parenting tools that you have with people that I know, because I think that it is good to have some sound advice out there on some
Indeed.
things.
Indeed.
So that would be wonderful. Ruth, do you have any final remarks for Savon? Because Savon, we want you to give us a final note just to our listeners, whatever you want to say to encourage or inspire them. But Ruth, do you have anything in particular you want to say in closing?
You know what? I think Andrea said it all. Just thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing your book with us. It really is. It was a pleasure having you on our show.
Yeah.
Thank you, both of
Yeah.
you. And look, for all of the authors out there, just go out and start writing, right? Like, you don't I'm not an expert author. I didn't know how, I wasn't a trained illustrator. That's not what matters. What matters is that we all have a story to share, and you have to get it out there. So
Good advice. Good advice. And somebody asked about the name of the book. The one that we talked about tonight is Emily D. and the Fearful First Day. That's Emily D. and the Fearful First Day. Go out there, check it out. Check out this beautiful author and all of the things that she's doing out there, and the great things that she is sharing with us. Savannah, I want you to hang tight for just a little bit after we close. Guys, thank you for being with us tonight. You know, we always love it when we have you on the program. You know, we could do this by ourselves, but it's a lot more fun when you join in and tune in with us on Sunday nights. You know, Saturday evening at 7 p.m. is our day for replay. So if you have a friend or neighbor or someone that you know would benefit from hearing from Savon and talking about her books, be sure that you have them tuned in next Saturday night. This program will re-air. And then on Sunday evening at 7 p.m., you can come right back and join us here for Authors Up. By that time, we hope that our Queen Victoria will be feeling well, better, healthy, strong. Her voice will be great, and she will be able to be back with us. And until then, we want you to have an absolutely amazing week. Have a great week, and come back. Join us again next week for Authors Up at 7 p.m. Thank you again, Savon. Hang in there. Good night, everybody.
Good night.